I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your day to help me conduct some information about doing research and in the classroom. So if you would like to start off by telling me what is your experience with research?
So I started really researching whenever I got into the graduate program at Concord. I went through the reading specialist program. I started in 2022, and from there, I really started researching and figuring out all about the reading world, because I feel like whenever I was in my undergrad, we didn't really talk too much about the reading world and all the implications and all the things that I know now. So through that program, I learned a lot about reading, and then now I have really started to do research with the reading brain. I'm in letters right now, which is a professional development that is language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling. And so through that, I've really researched the reading brain. Whenever you look at the reading brain, you have the frontal lobe, which is where all the sounds are stored, and then you have the occipital lobe in the back where the letters are stored, and then you have the rainbow right here, the reading road, and which phonics links all of that. And so you just really have to look at that whenever you're looking at the child and what they need. And I've also looked at Scarborough's reading rope and how he talks about language comprehension and word recognition, and that's whenever you get your skilled reader, whenever you have all those components, phonological awareness, decoding, sight recognition, not necessarily sight words, but sight recognition. You get background knowledge, vocabulary, literacy knowledge, reasoning. All those things create that skilled reader and make them fluent and automatic in their reading. So really all that is through Dr. Louisa Moats. She's the one who is she started letters, and she's doing all those things. So it's been really cool to learn about all those things.
Yes, that is awesome. That is lots of research and a lot of good information that I would like to even start researching and looking for myself. What motivated you to pursue this area of research in literacy?
So I have a lot of students that have reading difficulties. I have 9 out of 21 of my students have IEPs this year. So I have a lot of differentiation that I have to do, and I have to figure out what works for them. Through learning about the reading brain and learning about all this research, I've been able to really understand where the deficits are and understand that with the learning disabilities, ADHD, dyslexia, all of those things, they all play an important role in the gaps. And, I just think that through research, I've really improved my small group instruction. I've really honed in on what each group needs to be successful. And, we started also using UFly, which is a great supplemental curriculum, and that has really helped my kids as well. Learning phonics and phonological awareness and all those things that you cannot skip before your kids do start to get fluent in reading. And so those things kind of just motivated me to further my research and better myself in my practices.
Wow. How do you approach identifying key challenges in reading education?
So obviously anything that is relevant in current research, you want to keep up to date, because things that even I learned just a few years ago in undergraduate programs, it's not relevant now, and they have had new research since. So making sure that I keep up to date on those things, using scholarly articles. The NEA, the National Education Association, they come out with things all the time to update you on what's going on, especially in the reading world, about things that have been new research and things that you should be doing in your classroom, and things that you're not really told unless you do the research. So I think that it's important to do that. And then obviously personal experience, being in the classroom and talking to other educators helps you get a good understanding of where readers are struggling, all the way from kindergarten to second grade, and even in third grade. Our kids, they're just not fluent even by third grade. By the end of third grade, some of them just aren't there. So just talking to other educators and figuring out what we can do to better our practices and help each other and get our kids where they need to be, I think is really just essential.
Absolutely. How do you incorporate the latest findings from your research into your day-to-day work?
So the biggest thing for me is prevention and early intervention. Whenever you can try and prevent those misconceptions in reading and, really help your kids early before they can get too far, then we can help them understand with background knowledge and a good understanding of phonological awareness and using those things in our groups, even if it's just me in second grade. I mean, I have kids in second grade who can't do those things. So, intervening with them, helping them, getting them IEPs and getting them help to be successful, to make sure that they're on the right track. And through that, screening is great, doing progress monitoring is great, just to see where your students are at. And then obviously just differentiating with every kid, because every kid is so different. Each group that I see every day is so different. And I think, to bridge that gap and to keep myself relevant on things so that I have new tools to help teach every student and help them all learn. So I think whenever I find things that need to be done and that are best practices, I really try and help my kids and put that into my practice. So
Absolutely. Are there any unexpected findings from your research that have surprised you?
So through letters, we've learned about the simple view of reading, which is word recognition times language comprehension equals reading comprehension. So when you have those three things, something that really just shocked me is, so since it's a multiplication problem, if I have 0 word recognition, it's at a 0, nothing. And then I multiply that by language comprehension, which is at a 1, I still get 0. So it's not good any way that you put it. So I think that you just really need to make sure that you understand that if your kid has one component of the simple view of reading, they're still not going to have that reading comprehension. So it's just not going to work. And then another thing, we talked about the 3 cueing system whenever I was in school. I know that was a big thing that we had talked about. But new research has found that is ineffective because it actually leaves out the phonological part. And that is the 4-part processing model now is what you should be focusing on when you're talking about children and reading, because it has all the things of the 3 cueing system, but then it also adds in that phonological aspect, because you need that phonological and orthographic, because in between that is phonics. So if you don't have both, your kid is not going to be fluent in phonics, and then that's the big issue that we're having. Okay. So I think that has been really cool to see. And then through learning about the brain, you learn that the average reader, their left hemisphere lights up when they're reading, but your poor reader, the right side of their brain lights up. So it's just interesting to see the difference in the brains. And then whenever you do remediation with them, you start to see the brain shifting and moving more into that right side, that those kids are really moving from here to over here in their brain process. So that's been really cool too, just those things that I didn't know until I started researching this. So it was really cool.
So cool. What are some trends or shifts in reading education that you have observed over the years through your research?
So science of reading is a big thing. I know it's a big word that we are all using now, and it's in our legislature, and we have to make sure that we're doing it. And so that's definitely a big thing. That systematic approach to reading is something that we are having to implement, and that's a big shift. It's also everywhere in research when you look. So, I mean, it is research based, so the fact that they are having us use it is great because it is what the kids need. Also, family engagement is something that I feel like we never really did whenever I was in school, that now is a big thing. Like, we have Title I nights here, there's summer reading programs all the time, so those things are being made available to families so that we can get families involved and engaged in students reading. And then also just educational technology that's new. AI is great, Chat GPT, and then like Canva, all these new things that can help students, write papers and read and get new ideas. Like, all of these things are so cool and evolving, and I'm sure that we'll learn even more in the next few years. But it's been really cool to see those things come about over the last few years. So.
Yes, absolutely. So how do you think the emerging technologies are influencing literacy development and instruction?
So obviously you get increased accessibility, so those students that are struggling readers, you can have text to speech to help them on state testing or just any testing in general. Having that text to speech can help those readers, because if they're sitting there trying to decode those words, they can't actually focus on the comprehension aspect, so then their scores are low. So that definitely helps. And then you have ebooks for kids that can't read. Again, I mean, they can listen to those books. I mean, I know as an adult, sometimes I want to listen to an ebook if I'm driving to work or whatever, and I want to listen to something. So that's really cool to have that option. And then also just having diverse content and resources available. So we have multiple resources with leveled text. So, you know, I said I have 9 kids with IEPs. Not every text that I have my high group read can I have my low group read. Sure. So that's nice too, to have that option that you can just print out. That's not just a book that, you know, oh, I can just use this. No, there's plenty of stuff online that you can find and print out. And then also just multimedia resources, like we were talking about, like Canva. Like you can use Canva as a resource to use in your classroom for reading projects or whatever else you want to use. And then of course, data-driven insights, like for example, just track and monitor student progress online. You can use Canva again. I mean, Canva's great. I like to use it just as much as the kids do. I can use Canva, create a chart and see, you know, where my kids are at and see what they're missing, to figure out what they need and what gaps I need to bridge. So I am really excited about the technology that's out right now.
Yes,
it's really great.
Absolutely. How do you measure the impact of your research on reading practices in the classroom?
So I think just applying what I learn in everyday instruction is a great way to measure the impact, because if I'm implementing the best practices, what the students are giving out based on what I'm inputting into them, I can really see a difference in my kids using the research that I've learned and helping them understand how to read better. Through me understanding how they learn has really just helped, because, you know, through letters I've also understood that whenever they're trying to look at those letters and come up with the sounds and read a passage fluently, it's really hard, especially if they don't know those letters and sounds yet. They just can't do it. So I think that has been something that's been really eye-opening for me, is, you know, if I struggle to read something that's new and that I'm trying to get, obviously for them it's hard and it's a struggle. So I think that, you know, I've really learned empathy through this whole process of understanding where they are. And then, you know, obviously assessment. I do assessment all the time. We always learn that assessment drives instruction. So, you know, I've assessed my kids and that helps me measure where they're at and then where I need to go as a teacher with my practices.
Absolutely. And finally, what do you hope to see change or improve in the field of reading education?
So I think that we have talked about this before, but curriculum. I wish that our state and our legislature would just let us teach our standards, because no curriculum is a one-size-fits-all, and you know, we're always being told to add in this or supplement with this. And so I think that I would like to see the curriculum change a little bit. I wish that we could just, as teachers, we know the standards and we know what our kids need, so I wish that they would kind of give us a little bit of free reign to do that. It would be great. And then obviously just some professional development would be nice for educators, you know, because like I said before I started my professional development, I really didn't know about any of these things. So I think that would be great too, that other educators could learn the things that I'm learning too and get as much as I have out of it.
Awesome. Well, I thank you so much for taking time to give me all of this great information that, you know, has been very enlightening to me and, you know, helps me, you know, get started on my own research, you know, as I go through this process. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.